Welcome you as well to Beach Shores. So, Jerry, can you call roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Miller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Flores,
Here.
Councilmember Bryan,
Here.
Councilmember Collins,
Here.
Councilmember Linden.
Here.
Thank you.
Commissioners,
Commissioners, we know it's going to take a couple of years. Reverend Bob, can you lead us in our invocation, please?
Yes. Thank you. If you would stand and join me in this invocation. O God of creation, spring is in the air because of you and your goodness. It is because of you that we enjoy the fresh air and cool ocean breezes, that we see and experience new life springing up around us and smell the fragrance of trees budding and flowers blooming. Receive our thanks, good Creator, in the ways we serve your people and love our neighbors. Lord, we ask your tender mercy and healing grace to be with communities in Alabama and Mississippi devastated by storms last weekend. They have suffered great loss of life and property. We extend our love and care to them. Also, we pray for those who are suffering great loss and experiencing tremendous grief in Nashville, Tennessee. God, in these chambers tonight, humble us with your wisdom and your strength to make decisions that offer peace, tranquility, and wholeness in this place and to the residents we serve. May your care flow like a river to those in need, and may we be channels of your goodness. For this we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to move on to our presentation and public notices and awards. So, Stuart, would you like to come forward? I think they're both yours. Is the first one Wayne?
Yes.
Okay, I have to tell you, Wayne, after I became mayor, you're the first person in Public Works that welcomed me to the Shores. So I always remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, for the record, Stuart Cruz, the Service Director. So tonight, I'm happy to offer 2 anniversary awards. The first is to Wayne Dillon. As you mentioned, Madam Mayor, Wayne is one of the most friendly employees that you'll ever meet. Wayne is our maintenance worker 3. He's been with the city for 20 years. He actually dabbled in sewer for a little bit. He comes from a long line of government family, working in the government. As I mentioned, he's a very, very friendly and dependable employee, and he's also, if you take a look at him and if you know his true age, you'll know that he's a health fanatic, and he always is talking about health stuff and about how to stay healthy and to basically live longer, and he's also talking about retirement as well, how to maximize his retirement. So I've known Wayne for a very long time. Just like you, Madam Mayor, he was one of the first persons to welcome me to the city, and with that, I'm happy that he's on our team, and congratulations, Wayne.
Somebody's gonna take a picture. We'll stand too.
Stan, yes.
Way to go, Wayne.
Next up, I'm happy to present a 15-year anniversary award to Matt Thomas. Some of you get to see Matt Thomas whenever you have an inspection at your condo or at your home. Matt is our deputy building official and plans examiner. He's been with the city for 15 years, and in 2016, he actually joined the building division. Originally, he started off as a city electrician. One thing you guys might not know about Matt, and hopefully the contractors don't hear this, but Matt is not only one of the friendliest people I know, but he also has a really, really cool sense of humor. So another thing that you might not know about Matt is out of the 8 licenses here in the state of Florida for building inspectors, Matt actually has 7 of them. Which is a huge rarity, and for that reason and all the other reasons I mentioned before, you know, we're happy to have Matt here on our team at the city. Congratulations, Matt.
Stuart, I'd like to also say too, looking back there and seeing his almost entire team back there, I can tell how well he is liked in his department. That's awesome to see.
I need to get that.
Congratulations, Matt. Okay, next we'll move on to the approval of our city commission meetings from March 14th, 2023. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes?
So move. I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on any of those minutes? Hearing none. Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Commissioner Lindauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Fogos,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colace,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next, our consent agenda. We have 3 items on there today. If there's none that we need pulled, can I please have a motion to accept those 3?
I so move. I'll second.
Any of discussions on any of those 3 items? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Fogos,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colace,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we go on to our city attorney. Paul, it's wonderful to have you with us this evening. Do you have anything for us?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and nothing to report. We're very busy, but fortunately, we have nothing to report this evening.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we'll move on to our city manager. City Manager Swartzlander, what do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I had put in there that I was going to present do a presentation on the Hurricane After Action Report, and in thinking about it, I felt like we've been bombarded at our last few meetings with PowerPoint after PowerPoint. We've done a couple of big presentations about storms. So I'd like to go through some of the lessons learned and things that we would like to change in the future if Commission gets on board with those. One of the things I won't be talking about tonight is seawalls. We've heard that these are really things for city operations and how we can improve for future storms, and a combination of things that we've already addressed or are in the process of addressing or have some proposed solutions for, or will be working on solutions for. So you have in front of you tonight a list of 7 different things, and I'm just going to run through those real quick. The first one, the pay policy and procedures regarding when we declare an emergency and how staff, if you recall, last council meeting, you all took care of that. So I still added that because that was one of the items we felt needed to be addressed, but that has been addressed, so thank you for that, and that's clear for all future storms. And these are in no particular order. Sewer lift stations. As you know, we own our own sewer system and pump it across the river to Port Orange. So there are a handful of stations that do not have generators, and so if we lose power after a storm, we have folks who are prepared to run around with backup generators on trailers and hook up and pump and keep the sewage flowing even when there is no power. We have a lot of stations that do have permanent generators. So we are looking at putting a grant request together through the local mitigation, hazard mitigation program under the Hurricane Nicole funds. That funding has not been announced yet, but we would like to, with your permission, go ahead and put a proposal together I've asked Stuart and his folks to go ahead and start looking at that and what kind of dollars would go into that proposal. The local mitigation money, every storm the federal government makes money available for hardening buildings, to governments for things like that. And so I don't know that we really have done a lot of this in the past. So it's money that's available, and we figured we have needs, let's try for it. It's voted on by the countywide local mitigation group. They have meetings regularly, and I will talk more about the Hurricane Ian money because we did put some proposals in for that. Any questions on sewer stations? Okay. One of the things that during the storm, I personally found trying to communicate with the commission, I would send some emails, there were times where I would call, and I might get somebody, I might not get somebody, leave a voicemail, and I didn't feel that I was consistent in my communication. I talked with each of you, but throughout the storm of consistently getting the same message to all 5 of you on a consistent basis. And one of the things that we do with the County Emergency Operations Center is we do a situation report every day with all the details of everything that's happening. And so in discussing it with staff, we felt like that is probably the cleanest thing to just, when we submit it to the county, go ahead and send it out daily and have it open for questions. That way you're all getting the same message, everybody gets the same message at the same time, and I don't miss anything, because there were times where I know, I recall one call, I believe I was talking to Commissioner Politis, and I got a phone call from the county, and I said, well, I've got to get back with you, I've got to take this call. I don't know if I ever called him back, so if I didn't, I'm sorry.
I was there every day, so I don't feel like I was lacking, but with the rest of them, yes.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that we are providing the best information as consistently as possible to the commission. So I'm looking for direction from the commission if that's an acceptable way. Obviously, I'm a phone call away, but communicating with that report that we're already providing and doing for the county anyways would be, I think, the best way to communicate daily. We do it pre and post storm, and that would be while we are declared and still have, where we've gone to that emergency situation where we're running double shifts and things like that.
So what does that look like, Kurt? Is it just at the end of every day you review? I mean, is it a form you fill out, or just bullet points of what happened during the day? I don't think I saw that, so let me know what it looks like.
It's a combination of things. Every city does it a little bit differently in what they report, but it's a bullet points of trouble spots, issues, like when we called the county for additional inspectors, we put that on the report, that type of thing that would go into that report. So really everything that's happening from the last report to this report. And sometimes you're just adding to your prior report. And each storm is different. So the needs of and the requirements of that report change with each event. We don't tend to have flooding events, but a lot of the other cities, all their stuff was about flooding. We had, building damage and seawall damage and things that we're reporting and evacuations. So trying to get that consistent to the commission in a very clear manner on a consistent daily basis.
So do you want to ask us right now? I mean, like I said, I was there every day, so I felt like what was going on, but I certainly want everybody else on the commission to have the same information we do. So if you're doing it anyway, I think that's fantastic. Does anyone else any?
I think that's good. So do I, and one comment that I would make is that you don't have to wait on our communicating with us to get something done. When you have an emergency and you need to do something, you know that we got your back. You're the manager, so manage, you know, and
Yes.
then tell us what you did.
You do need to know what we're doing.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
The why and when and what. So that's,
Well, with the phone calls, you might have been hesitating to do something until you got in touch with us. Just doing a report of what you did is more appropriate, I think.
okay.
I would agree.
One of the other lessons learned is having continuing services contracts in place for as many different things as we can anticipate. We do have some in place, engineering. We do have a debris removal and debris monitoring contract in place. In our city, we just use Waste Pro, and that's built into their contract. So we don't have that separate, but we have talked about creating certain mutual aid agreements for building inspectors, having an electrician or electricians on a continuing service contract, HVAC folks, all those kind of things that for emergency, like building repairs, those kind of things, having them on contract that will expedite the recovery for city properties. So I think that's a pretty straightforward. The county does a lot of that. We will probably mimic the county's approach to that. And one of the other lessons learned was the community center. This building here is on a generator, but the generator only runs the AC and the outlets in this room here. It does not run the rest of the building. And if you remember during Hurricane Ian, it was a last resort, but we had to evacuate one of the ALFs, and we moved them into council chambers, and they were plugged in with their oxygen units and stuff into the different units because we had power here. So we would like to look at, actually, we have already applied because the deadline was a couple weeks ago. We've put in for a $120,000 grant through the local mitigation grant money to find out what needs to be done to make this whole building on generator and upgrade our generator. So we also, during Nicole, when the sheriff sent 120 some officers, I believe it was, we've told you that story, well, they had to be fed. And they bring their own food, but they didn't have a place to eat. So we fed them upstairs, multiple meals and multiple shifts. And if we were without power, they probably would have been eating in here, but this has never been set up when we have the kitchen upstairs and everything. So we'd like to look at powering that. The intent is not to turn this building into a shelter, but just to have it on full generator power, so whatever happens, happens. And then probably the biggest thing that we took away from this is we do not and have not ever activated what you call a community information center. And really don't have a formal emergency operations center. So your community information center actually gets activated well in advance of a storm, and the idea is you staff it, you ramp up, you have a single phone number for all of your citizens to call. We have forwarded almost all phones to that number, and that's the idea. In an event, you forward the city clerk's phone, the utility billing phone, the building department, everybody, all those calls go to the community information center, and the people answering it are in one location, and they have one message and are consistent in their communication. So I talked about communication with the commission. This is now communication with our citizens and how we provide them the best information. And that starts well in advance when we start getting calls about sandbags, hurricane passes, those type of things, to the post-event where was my building evacuated. We had phones forwarded to one employee's cell phone overnight. So this would be a location that we don't really have right now, but we're trying to put into place to create a CIC and an emergency operations center. So we took over one of the lieutenant's office and kind of did a lot in the hallway of trying to organize the emergency operations, and it's staff's opinion that we really need to create an emergency operations center. What that looks like is to be determined. We have immediate plans because we don't have a building and space. One of the things, I know we've talked about staffing, is we had over almost 50 people here during both those storms. And it's an extended period of time. In doing some research, for example, Brevard's EOC, now it's a county level, they try and staff to be fully sustaining for 96 hours. In our case, we don't have sleeping facilities per se. We use rooms that we have and turn them into those facilities. So because the deadline was 2 weeks ago, we did put in for a grant of about $3.2 million to do an expansion down at Public Safety to create those facilities, but it would be a multi-purpose. So when it's not in a storm, it'd be training facilities, meeting rooms, those kind of things, but that will need to be designed and more formalized. We base that number off of a rough square footage guess off of other submittals for that. So,
Kurt, I have a question.
Yes.
Did you say the 3.2 million was a grant, was a 50-50 match?
no, it's a fully funded grant. So under Hurricane Ian, I believe the amount of money was $46 million the federal government makes available. Now, to put it into perspective, there were $139 million worth of grant submittals for the $46 million. They voted, and we made the EOC and CIC request made Tier 1 funding. The community center, I believe, made Tier 2 funding. So but we are behind projects that were already on the list. So this list is maintained countywide. Every time there's a storm, they meet monthly to keep the list going and talk about what monies may be available. If it's not spent, it comes back to the pool. So if we only need $2 million of the 3.2, that difference would go back, and then they would put the next project on the list. So we have submitted our projects. As I said, I don't believe we ever have gotten one of those grants, but our projects were rated pretty high in that, so we're hopeful. And then when as I said, the Hurricane Nicole money comes available, we'll do the sewer lift stations as part of that, and sewer projects tend to get rated pretty highly as well.
So Kurt, for the EOC, I know we'll go into more detail at a later time, but, again, I saw people, bodies all over, people sleeping all over. We don't have the showers, the kitchen facility, that lieutenant's office was so small, people all over.
Yes.
I know at one time you had talked to me about two different ideas. One of them was building on top of it, the garage or where the gym, or what is that building called right now?
The Public Safety Annex.
Okay, on top of the Public Safety Annex. And then another thing we kicked around, maybe going back and looking, because that old Bank of America property would have been fantastic in its location, the size and everything like that. So is that something later on, if we are granted the money, you'll look at those two options? Or have you ruled one above the other?
I'm not so sure a property acquisition would rank that high because it's not directly a mitigation project, but I agree that would have been central to the services. We looked at different locations in the city. Okay, do we do it at City Hall? Do we do it here? But because the majority of what we're doing pre and post storm is handled by Public Safety, the immediate aftermath, that's where we felt we needed to be. So we went and looked at, for example, we went down to New Smyrna. Now, they have their EOC and CIC are located within a fire station. So it's not down by the coast for them. It's up in an area. And now their fire station actually, because of the shift work that they do, They already have bunk rooms, and they just add more people to the bunk rooms, but they have, you know, lockers and showers, and their weight room becomes their community information center. They bring in tables and phones and have, you know, staff that go in there, so it kind of makes sense that, but they have a dedicated room that is set aside, and it's probably only about half the size of this chamber, that is their EOC, and they do use it every once in a while for maybe EOC-related training classes, but they keep it set up for whatever that emergency is. I think we don't need to keep it 24/7 dedicated that way, that we can have it set up to be used for multiple activities, training, you know, if there's community things that we're, you know, outreach type programs in there, but having it at the public safety complex, or, you know, a few years ago, I might have said, well, our old senior center, but now we have Halifax and radiology in there. That would have been ideal. It's literally a walk across. So the Bank of America property would be, would still love to have that for the city, and if it becomes an option, that would be an ideal location as well, because it's right there, central. One of the problems we have with some of our folks, and this is a good problem to have, they want to serve. And trying to get, especially some of our public safety folks, they want to be in the action. And trying then to, we're 12 on, 12 off, and trying to get them to step aside and go rest, relax, because you're going to be on in 12 hours again. We were in the center of that building, and that's the hub, and they want to be involved. It's a good thing. We have awesome folks that they just want to serve, but we need to be able to break that away from them so they can get downtime, so they aren't getting exhausted and tired. If we have, God forbid, another event like we had where we were doing evacuations and that, you know, a lot of folks go a lot of hours without a lot of sleep. And I appreciate their dedication, but I'd like to be able to separate them and give them that quiet place as well. And I know the mayor can attest to, we had bodies on top of bodies in these buildings. And the other hard part is we had people sleeping in City Hall. We had people sleeping in the Public Works building. We had people down at Public Safety. And that's hard to keep continuity of operations and communication going when you're in 3 different spots. So the idea would be to expand that, whether it's Bank of America or Public Safety Annex or however that falls out, but to expand that, we have put the grant in. We have to do a more formal application. We submitted concepts. So that will be.
What grants do we have out there now?
Through the local mitigation program, we have 2 different grants. One for the community center, we put in $120,000.
And then 3.2 million.
And then roughly it's 3.188 or whatever number we submitted, but 3.2 million for looking at an expansion to Public Safety Annex. Now, part of that may be a remodeling of certain areas and creating, maybe we take the fire bay and move it or something like that. We've got to talk through that process. One of the problems right now is for our folks that sleep in the main public safety building, the showers are out back in the annex. So in the middle of a storm, you come off a shift and you go out back and you shower and get ready to go to bed. Then you have to walk outside in the middle of the storm and get soaking wet and come back into the main building to sleep. So we're trying to look at how do we best lay that out so we prevent a lot of those things and make it easier for them.
Get your work cut out for you.
Yes. Yeah. So, and the last thing is evacuations. And I hate to sound negative, but I don't believe that most of the seawalls will be built by the time hurricane season is here. So while not a lesson learned, we are pre-coordinating with the county. I believe it's April 12th. I have a meeting. I believe Public Safety Director Fowler and myself are going over to the county to have a preliminary discussion about this upcoming storm season and how we can better prepare if, God forbid, we have another storm and have to go through some of what we went through this past year.
We're praying for that it doesn't happen.
Absolutely,
I want
yes.
us to be prepared, so
Yes.
absolutely. If there's no other question, if anyone wants any questions, but I want you to go over, and it's not really seawalls, to let our residents know that we are constantly advocating, working with our partners. If you want to go just a high-level overview of the meeting we had yesterday with DEP, DEM.
Yes, so the mayor and I attended a meeting down at the County Beach Patrol building with Florida Department of Emergency Management. Fish and Wildlife was on the call. It was a Zoom, and we had
DEP,
DEP.
County.
And all the Volusia County folks, and we were advocating for a couple of different things, trying to get the turtle season issue worked on again. It's kind of never ending, and we will keep harping. We are the squeaky wheel. We will continue to be the squeaky wheel, and they just move very slow in modifying and changing things that they do. So the big push there was pushing to be able to get, DEM has partnered with the county, piggybacking off of their contract, because they have to take the Tiger dams down. Now, they told us it wasn't going to happen until April 1st, but apparently.
That was yesterday.
Yeah, that was yesterday. They told us it wasn't going to start happening until April 1st. Apparently, they have already started taking the Tiger dams down. But they have partnered with the county to put trap bags up on the foot of the dune behind those Tiger Dam locations. Now, the big catch there is they have to have a signed easement. We held an easement open house last Monday night here. I believe we had about 60 different easements that got signed that night. Again, I'm encouraging everybody, if you own coastal property, to sign that easement. We have it on the agenda tonight for the city to sign the easements. The commission approved that. And why is that important? Not just the trap bags, but they are going to be getting additional money for beach nourishment. And they won't place sand in front of your property for dune nourishment if they don't have an easement. So we will continue to advocate. The mayor has spoken twice at Tallahassee regarding these issues, and it's never ending. I've talked with Tom Wright's aide quite a few times, just clarifying certain situations of our condos and stuff, trying to get them clear information of where we're really at on things. So, and Representative Leake's office as well, I've spoken with his aide. And I find that speaking with the aides actually seems to be getting information faster than waiting for the either senator or representative, especially while they're in session.
And although the permits are not coming through as fast as we would have liked, yesterday on the call, we brought it up that probably if you don't have an issued permit this week, it's gonna be very, very hard to make that May 1st deadline. But did we figure out we got 10 between Friday and today?
That's what they said in, the email update. I believe it was 10 more issued
Permits,
issued permits.
So again, not as fast as we'd like, but certainly faster than it was moving in the beginning, which was 1 or 2 a week approved.
And DEP is trying to, I know they're taking a lot of heat for their rules and regulations, but permitting folks, if they have all the information that they're required to collect, they are trying to turn them around as quickly as possible. And they are. I see that. We get a weekly report, thanks to the mayor advocating to get that. We are seeing that progress as it changes week to week on that report of which ones are being issued. So
it's working out. I mean, at the beginning, if I would have went back 3-4 months ago, everything was a no, 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 no. I felt like we've built the relationships now that we can just pick up the phone, at the state level and call someone and say what's going on. So it's a little bit beneficial. I'd like to see a little bit more action, but, and again, we're just advocating about that May 1st date. I mean, that, with June 1st right behind it and the hurricane starting that day at the sad situation.
Yeah, and it's slow, but the good news is they said if you have started construction, you get to keep. So it was originally no, May 1st comes, you're done, you have to stop no matter where you're at. They have given in a little bit. I know our representatives are working to continue to try and change that, but it's a slow-moving process.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. You know how I am about lessons learned. Just Councilman.
Yeah,
Commissioner.
Kurt, would we be able to, the Community Information Center, would we be able to, in near real time, echo that on the website? If we could, people would be able to access that, and that would make it easier on the phone bank.
Yes. A lot of what we do with the website, though, is we direct people to the county website, because we put all of our information on the county website as well. So that, for the website, I'd like to keep that at the county. The county does a phenomenal job. They have a whole staff to do that. And we have.
Is that keeping the information that you've got on the phone banks
Yes.
duplicated there?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yes.
fine.
Yeah, that stays consistent. Whatever we tell them, they put on the county website.
Okay.
And they have it by city listed, so, we get so many calls, though, from folks outside of our city. We get a lot of calls from folks from Daytona Beach, Ponce, the unincorporated county, that all think they live in the shores. And for us to be able, not have to keep track of Ponce's website or anything, that's why everybody uses the county. It's just easiest to say the best location to look is Volusia County. The other thing that happens with that is the TV crews pick up the county website information as well, and that's what they are presenting. So we try and keep the county as updated with our information as we can, because the news crews focus on that as well.
Do they update in near real time?
Yes,
Okay.
they are pretty good about that. Like I said, they have a whole staff to do that.
Yeah, they have someone there that's their
They
job.
have a whole department, yes.
Okay, any other questions? Well, great overview, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep on working on those lessons learned.
Madam Mayor, you have a question from a member of the public.
If you must, you'd have to come up here to speak and give your name and address for the public record. Was it a question to do with one of the things that he had talked with?
Talking about,
Okay,
yes, because I'm not familiar with it at all. My name is Elsa Heaney, Salida del Sol is where I live.
okay. And if you want to talk right into the microphone, the only reason why we have to have it recorded, so, okay.
Here?
Sherry, can you hear her okay?
Okay, you mentioned having to have an easement in order to get sand if you have coastal property.
Yes.
What kind of an easement are we talking about? The public access easement, or is it something separate that belongs like to our condo? Needs to have its own
So it would,
easement?
yeah, it would be because you have coastal property in your condominium. So it would have to be someone that normally signs, probably the president of that. So that would be an easement, and it's for the next 5 years. There's a possibility that you wouldn't get anything in the next 5 years, but if they were doing any beach renourishment, you might get additional sandbags going forward. We just don't know what it would be. But instead of them reaching out every time to each one of the properties, and this would be with the county, not with the city, so the easement is with the county. Did that answer your question?
Well, where would the easement be? Is it like on the property of each building?
What it is, it's an easement for the county to access either in front of your seawall, or if your seawall failed at the foot of your dune or ledge, for them to place trap bags. It's for those two purposes, trap bag placement. And included in that, and I should have mentioned this before, included in that, the county did get FEMA approval to do private property debris removal. So if you sign the easement and they identify your property, this easement allows them to come in and take debris that's freestanding debris If your debris is holding up your dune, like your pool fell in and it's holding up your dune, they're not gonna touch that. They don't wanna do anything that will cause further erosion, but the easement is only for debris removal. If your seawall fell outward and it's still laying on the beach, and they're gonna come in and they identify you as a trap bag candidate, they will come in, remove that debris, place trap bags in front of it, and that's what the easement allows them to come on your property. If you're concerned that it's an easement where citizens can now be walking across your property, that's not the intent at all. It's only for the coastline. And then the county is doing a study and will get sand to pump up or truck up on the beach and place in front of properties for dune nourishment. That's why it's 5 years, because it's gonna be a multi-year project. The study will probably take a year before it's done. And then when they have that sand identified and those locations and they come place sand, that easement allows them to come place sand on your property in front of your property. But it doesn't provide public access. The public doesn't get to walk across your condo parking lot and, use your stairs if that's what you're concerned about.
Yeah, no, I think we need sand, and if we need an easement, our association board needs to know, do you apply for this easement, or do you?
What we could do, Elsa, is after the meeting, you can get with Kurt, and it's a county, and we can get you the form. It needs to be notarized. We have Sherry, who is a notary in our city. You need a picture ID, and again, somebody that has the right to sign, whether it's your CAM manager or your president. Okay?
And if I may, Madam Mayor, just for everybody else's knowledge, it has to be everybody that has ownership rights on that property. If it's in a trust and it's in 10 kids' name, all 10 of those folks have to sign the easement. So if your condo association has authorized your board president, whoever the legal representative is, but if you're a private property and it's husband and wife, it's gonna be both husband and wife that have to sign it, just for clarification.
In the condominium, it would be your board president, or whoever has that authority would sign.
Whoever normally signs your documents.
That's what I wanted.
Deborah, did you have a comment you wanted to make? You'd have to come up too, Deborah, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to address, I did this today, our condo did.
Oh, you
It's
did?
very easy.
Okay.
I'm Deborah Taylor at 2855 South Atlantic in St. Kitts. Let me just tell you, the location is at the lifeguard north of us, the major lifeguard place. I went in, I told the gentleman who I was. He called the lady down. She said, "Who are you?" I told her who I was, and I was authorized. They signed it, they notarized it, and I walked out. 15 minutes. Easy peasy.
All right, thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah.
Pardon?
Okay, so we can talk, after the meeting on that. Also, the county has sent us that form that we can certainly print out for you, and if you didn't want to go down the street, Sherry can notarize it with you if everything, with the picture ID and the ownership, and then we'll get it sent to the county for you. Okay, any other questions on anything else that our city manager talked about? Okay, if not, we have no old business this evening, so now we'll move on to new business, and this is Resolution 2023-07. And is there something for you to read for us, Attorney?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is resolution number 2023-07. This is a resolution of the city of Daytona
Excuse
Beach.
me?
Oh,
Is it out of order?
On the ordinance first. On the water.
Yeah, I see that the resolution was Part B. Madam Mayor,
is
would you prefer me to take the ordinance first and then the resolution?
Ordinance should be first.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yours didn't change, I apologize.
okay, that's okay. So are we going on to ordinance? Which ordinance are we going on to?
2301.
2301?
Okay, so the ATR?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Okay, so ordinance 2023-01, so repeal of the supplemental economic. If you can read that for us, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, one moment to that. Okay, this is ordinance 2023-01, an ordinance of the city of Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, repealing in its entirety Article 3, Supplemental Economic or Tourism Development Incentive Program Ordinance of Chapter 10, Economic Development, parentheses codified as Section 10-31 through 10-36 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, providing for non-codification, conflicts, severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Attorney.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
All right, Stuart, is there anything, I mean, I know we discussed this last time when we asked you to bring this forward. Is there anything else that we need to talk about? I think we talked about last month that it was something that we had originally come up with when he had an economic development plan. This is one phase of it that, we're asking to have repealed.
Correct, Madam Mayor. The economic development program that the city had involved 3 different prongs or components. One was the Supplemental Economic or Tourism Development Incentive Program, or ATR program. But the other component was the lease subsidy program, and the other program was the land purchase rebate program, and that was repealed, I believe, a couple of years ago. So this is something that the city commission asked for, and it's my understanding from the city attorney that despite this repeal, if it were to happen, that in the future, if there was an opportunity to work out a development agreement with a developer, or we would go ahead and do that.
Okay, great. All right, do I hear a motion to accept?
I move we approve 2301.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion on this or any questions? Okay, if not, Sherry, can you take a roll on this?
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Conlon,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gladys,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to Resolution 2023-07.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Now we are on to resolution number 2023-07. This is a resolution of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Florida. Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, waiving hurricane-related local building permit fees associated with permanent seawall reconstruction, providing for implementing administrative actions, duration and waiver extension, providing for savings provision, conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fast, huh?
That was, I was looking over there.
Madam
Thank
Mayor,
you. Great.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is something, again, that the commission asked that we bring forward tonight. If this resolution is approved, it would essentially waive the building permit fees, the city's component of the building permit fees that are associated with permanent seawall reconstruction here in Daytona Beach Shores. The effective date would be retroactive to February 6th, and February 6th is the date in the resolution because February 7th is the day that we actually received the first permit that was actually paid for. So if approved again tonight, it would go all the way back to February 6th in terms of reimbursement. So the city commission, this particular resolution, it extends for an entire year, but the city commission has the ability to give an extension if needs be. We don't.
Or end sooner,
I'm sorry?
or end it sooner if we wish.
I will leave that part up to the city attorney, but the duration is for an
1 year.
entire year.
All right, thank you.
But there is an ability to extend it if needs be. And this does not cover reinspection fees, but it does cover the basic building department component with regards to the building fees.
Okay, and do you feel that we will have any problems breaking down a bill from a contractor for the seawall only, say if they were doing some, pavement repairs or anything else?
If they want the reimbursement and they want the actual waiver, they will actually, do their best to break it down. So far, we've had 20 applications, and I believe 16 of them are actually issued as well already, and 4 of them are pending because the information is somewhat incomplete. But we've had 20 applications since February 6th.
So you will take the application and break it down so that you're certain that what we're paying for is, okay.
Correct.
That's great.
And they will have to provide evidence that that is indeed what they're actually paying.
Okay, questions?
Yeah. Do revetments require a building permit?
Yes, they do, and we will be waiving that fee. That will cover under this as well.
Okay. Even though it says seawall.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, do I hear a motion to accept Resolution 2023-07?
Sorry.
Chris is gonna do it. Go ahead, Chris Offer.
I'll move
Okay,
to approve.
And I'll second.
okay. Any more discussion on this? Okay, if not, Sherry, can you take a roll on this?
Commissioner Conlon,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gladys,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindauer,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now we're on to council comments. Vice Mayor, do you want to start us off with anything?
Yes, I do.
Oh, wow. He is the new kid. We sent him to more.
So you send me to a transportation planning organization
loves it.
as a liaison, and I thought I was gonna be bored out of my mind, but I tell you not. The last meeting we had was in the airline room at the airport, and it was pretty swanky. And so this young mayor of DeLand, Chris, I forget Chris's last name. Cloudman, really runs a good show. And what the TPO does is they receive all these projects, whether it's redoing the interchanges at LPGA and Destination Daytona and Pioneer Trail, or if it's doing a road project. The people from the Florida Department of Transportation come before, they give a presentation, they tell them where they got the grant money, they say who got the contract, how much it is, what it's all about. Very informative. So this last meeting I went to did not disappoint. So I'm gonna give Sherry, our clerk, this scan code. So they presented all the trails, their pedestrian trails, their bike trails, and they run all the way from Atlantic Ocean all the way to St. Pete. And I think there's a few gaps somewhere in the middle, but only 3 miles of gaps. And you've got an app you put on your phone, and it tells you where you are, it tells you how close you are to a rest area. They have bike repair stations, and then you press another button, and it'll tell you what points of interest are near you, whether it be a hotel, a restaurant, or let's say some kind of something of special interest, something historical. And it was really a really cool presentation. And then they were telling us about e-bikes, and the American Disabilities Act precludes you from banning the e-bikes. And but they really do a good job. So they have a lot of public hearings. If you don't know anything or you want to know something, you just go to the Transportation Organization website, and it is just a whole bunch of information. So we, as our city, don't have a lot of projects going on, but you know, like there were major projects in Daytona. They're getting ready to do the LPGA interchange and fix the bridge that takes you over to Margaritaville and the back entrance to LPGA. But I was really impressed on the amount of information, the depth of the information, and the fact that a lot of this executive director, Colleen Nakulin, she gets these grants and she goes and gets federal money, state money, and county money to fund a lot of these projects, and there are a lot of projects going on. So as the liaison for the city of Daytona Beach Shores, I'm happy to inform you that things are being done to improve, make life better in this area, and really improve a lot of the road projects.
And Vice Mayor, is it true that they have like 3, 5, 10-year projects that they're budgeting for something?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, those projects now are on the agenda for the legislative session, and there is a strong likelihood they're gonna get approved, which means regardless of timing, whether it's 3, 5, or 10 years down the road, the money is earmarked. And then you'll have, because they go through a design phase, then a bidding phase, then a construction phase. Like for instance, we're gonna get new interchanges at LPGA and Destination Daytona that are all futuristic. They all help minimize traffic congestion, pedestrian, safety things. And before I stop, I met somebody from DOT about getting some proposal. I don't do nothing. I only there to gather information and ask questions, because I don't have the authority from anybody here to say anything, to give my opinion. But I did get to speak to a member of the FDOT and got her business card about getting with the city manager about a consistency in all the crosswalk signs. So that way you don't have one that just says a sign, stop here, the other one, you press a button, the yellow lights go off like a pinball machine, and then the other one, it was just basically a suggestion. So we're trying to get, and our city manager will talk to that person to see what they propose, so that way there's consistency to minimize accidents and pedestrian, and increase pedestrian safety.
Even if we can't get the lights at some of those interchanges, understanding that it is the state and they decide based on traffic.
Yeah.
At least each one of them will be consistent and hopefully our out-of-towners will recognize that it's a crosswalk.
Crosswalk, yeah. So anyway, I was happy to report that, and,
Well, thank you so much for representing us there. Do you have anything else for us?
no,
Okay, Commissioner, yes.
I just wanted to say how impressed I was with our tour of the public buildings for the city. About a week and a half ago, myself and my fellow commissioners were treated to a tour of our public service buildings. We started off at Public Works, went to IT Department, and then Public Safety. I know Nancy Maddox had one for Community Center. I wasn't able to do that portion of it. But I was absolutely blown away with just the cleanliness, the way they maintain all the equipment. You know, our city spends a lot of money on a lot of these capital expenditures, like huge dump trucks, fire trucks, that type of thing. And when you look at it, it reminded me of going into a warbird museum, and you see these things, they are just pristine. And some of these vehicles are 15 years old, and I was just amazed. And so all of our citizens can be rest assured that the folks that work for this city do a fantastic job in maintaining this equipment and getting the maximum life out of it, because it is very expensive, but they take that responsibility very seriously. And it was just a pleasure to meet everybody, and again, it was just a great experience, and thank you for doing that.
Yes. Okay, I don't really have anything this evening, so Commissioner Lindauer?
Just to pick up on what Commissioner Conomo said, I think that what we try to convey to the team members, and I like to call them the team members, not employees, because we're all part of a big team here in the city, and that's why it works, because everybody contributes to the same goal, and everybody works hard, nobody's hiding, and it's just a real pleasure to be part of a team that where everybody pulls and everybody works together for the same goal, which is life is better here. And it really is, again, great to be part of the team.
Thank you. Commissioner Bryan?
Yeah, the armoring meeting that we had scheduled for the 27th has been changed to the 6th of April, which is Thursday. It'll be at 4 o'clock in council chambers. We're going to live stream it and record it. Even more important than the presentations are the written responses to seawall questions. I've gotten 3 of them so far. I expect another 2 to 5. And the presentations will just be a summary of the written responses. So we'll have some idea. There's a lot of different designs out there, some using steel, some using concrete, some using composites, and the 4th one is a true line. So hopefully that'll give people an idea of what's out there, an idea of the pretty big spread in costs. And one of the main reasons that we hope will come from this is that people that aren't so far along will see the advantage in terms of costs of getting together with their neighbors and building along the seawall that spans a lot more than just one property. The temporary armoring that has been discussed a little bit tonight, the 2 trap bags, temporary armoring is extremely important because, in my opinion, there'll be a relatively small percentage of permanent armoring that's actually built by the end of the hurricane season. So the temporary armoring will be important for most of the properties to get together, to get all the way through the hurricane season without major erosion. The county is just building the 2 trap bags as, quote, minimal protection. So that needs to be looked at to see what will provide adequate protection to prevent major erosion through the hurricane season. And we're trying to look at that to some extent. The county needs to look at it because they're already putting the trap bags in front of their, like Rendon, and they need to have adequate protection throughout the hurricane season. So,
So, Commissioner, so the meeting you're having on the 6th, is just to, can you tell me what the purpose is? I'm sorry, to just,
Yeah, I stated the 5 objectives at the last meeting. The primary objective, really, the most important one, is to get people to see the advantage of getting together. But they'll see the different designs, they'll see the different costs. We're going to discuss temporary armoring, which that's the most urgent thing now, because that's all that most properties are going to have between now and the end of the hurricane season.
so if we're having this meeting on April 6th, if someone hasn't made the decision or gotten a contract or decided which wall they bought by April 6th, chances are almost nil that they would be able to start before May 1st.
Even the ones that already have an engineer, a design, and so on, a lot of them are not going to have seawalls finished by the end of the hurricane season.
So these permits that we're getting approved right now, they have their contractor and their funds. So those are probably gonna be starting before May 1st. Everyone else, are you just telling them, how important it is to have temporary armament, and then if they start again in November, to make the decision on their wall? Because they won't be able to do anything in
They
the.
can do all the planning, particularly, to get together with their neighbors. They can do the design for the seawall, they can do everything, but, they can probably even get a permit.
Have you had, I was a little bit disappointed because I know our city manager had a meeting probably 2.5 to 3 months ago encouraging contiguous seawalls. He lined them up by their things. As far as I know from going around talking to people, I don't know anyone that has said, okay, we're gonna do this on our property, these people next door are, have you, because you've worked with it more, have you seen other people that have done that?
The best example on the shores is the 30 homes, and they want to do a revetment as opposed to a seawall. I think a large percentage of those homes are going to build the same revetment.
Yeah, I get it with that, but do you know anyone else that has been successful working with their neighbors on a seawall?
In Wilbur by the Sea, there are 3 or 4 homes that have built a common seawall already. It's almost finished except for the cap. In New Smyrna Beach, there are 36 homes that are going together to build a common seawall.
But besides, because we have, 81% of our residents live in condos, I guess I'm asking more of a condo question. Do you know of anyone in the shores that have?
I know some that should, in terms of some that will, that remains to be seen. And they can divide the cost 100 ways, 50 ways, 200 ways, they're less cost sensitive. So the fact that they can save a lot of money is not as important to the big condos. So they're the ones that really have gone out and kind of, cost be damned.
On their own, okay.
But the smaller condos, the single-family homes, the smaller businesses, I think at least they'll know they can save money. As to how many of them are going to act on it, that remains to be seen.
All right, well, thank you. So next we'll go on to audience remarks and comments, and is it Devin or Danielle that'll be speaking? Yeah,
If possible, or?
Yeah, come on up, you'll have to introduce both your selves and share, so you'll have 3 minutes to present to us this evening.
Sounds good. We brought up a little bit of literature for you guys.
Okay?
You can pass out direct?
Yes.
The city clerk will need a copy as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Devin Eskra, and this is my wife, Danielle Eskra. And we live at 322 Silver Beach Avenue, Daytona Beach. We run and operate a company called Joyride. Joyride was started in Nashville in 2015 as a way to provide safe, reliable point-to-point transportation throughout the city. As Nashville evolved and grew, so did our company, and we evolved more into an ambassador tour service for the city. In 2018, Danielle started our NASCAR division of Joyride. This brought our point-to-point transportation to NASCAR tracks throughout the country. We've been providing the race fans with a fun and safe way to travel since then. Since the properties are so large, we're like their taxi service. If you've been to an event at the racetrack recently, you may have actually seen one of our carts or taken a ride. It's been through working with the Daytona International Speedway that we discover the Daytona community and everything it has to offer. We decided to take the leap and move our little family down to Daytona in 2020, and we plan to stay here long term. We would like to bring our tour-based business to the Daytona Beach shores. It is our intention to purchase 2120 South Atlantic Avenue, and from there operate our tours and bring a quality small-scale restaurant to the community as well. My wife and I would like to be able to share the historical and contemporary features of Daytona with locals and visitors alike. We do have plans in place to update the landscaping out front, and our carts, when they're not in operation, will be stored inside the bays of the old car wash. We'd like to improve the curb appeal. Whoever said that, sorry. The carts would be slightly different than the ones you saw at the racetrack. If you've seen ours at the racetrack, these will be completely street legal, so they'll have all the safety features necessary to operate on the streets. And we have so far met with Chief of Public Safety, Chief Fowler. We've met with Noel Eaton and Stuart Cruz as well. We also met with some local business owners and some of the residents, just talking about what we have to offer, and so far it seems to be a positive reception. I've gave you guys kind of a copy of our proposed tours that we would do, and then our tour route. As you can see on the tour route, we're going to stay in the shores. We'll be staying on A1A and the beach. And we know that since its inception, Daytona Beach Shores has been a community that puts its residents first. As owners of A1A frontage property and a local business in Daytona Beach Shores, it would not only be our privilege, but a necessity for us to uphold the same values. And we would just like to know what we could do or what we can do with you to move forward with this project.
So this evening, under audience comments, you just come forward and talk to us, and we don't really have a time that we answer questions. So what I'm gonna suggest right now is that we will give our staff direction on if this property's purchased, what we'd like to see, and could we have it at the next? I'm sorry if no one else heard me. So we will reach out to our staff and give them directions, you know, so next we'll be going over what we want on our next agenda. So that would be something, so there'd be a lot of questions we'd have for then. So if you know, certainly, Stuart, if we give you, can we give you directions right now on what we'd like to see? But thank you very much for the presentation today. We appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. We look forward to talking to you again.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Stuart, do you want to come up for a couple seconds? So, you know, I had a little bit of insight in that in the future, so I would like to have this on the, as we're talking about agenda items, I'd like to have an agenda item, so if you could meet with the folks there and get some idea too. My understanding is that this is not zoned correctly for this, so I would like you to let us know at the meeting why it's not zoned, what would need to be changed to make it zoned for that. One of the big caveats that I would want to see, and I'll ask the rest of the commission, I'm not happy the way that looks street view from it at all. So one of the things that I would need to see would be, you know, I don't know if they were gonna do a little restaurant, a coffee shop, whatever. I think it was ice cream at one time.
Correct.
Was it? So something like that, so the curb appeal from the street to, and some purpose for that. So this is the property that was the car wash next door to Dollar General. So what other things would you like our staff to bring forward in the next meeting so we'd have a better understanding of what was going on there?
Well, they have 2 weeks to our next meeting, so you got plenty of time to work up some drawings or something that visual that would let us know what it's gonna look like. And Stuart, you would tell us.
Coordinate that.
All right, and another thing that I would like to address too, and a question we'll bring up, Devin, is, you know, remember the last time we had someone interested in this parking, we had a concern about parking on this property, so I want to know how many spaces are available to, you know, for the parking there. So just whatever information you can bring forward. I'd love to see it, you know, this is more at our north end of town where people, most of our residents are saying, please improve our properties. So this would be an empty building on the north side of town that if everything worked out, you know, I would be very, very happy about. So.
Has the property changed ownership?
It hasn't as yet, to my knowledge.
Yeah, we're under contract currently.
Okay, all right, great.
And just so the commission knows, what we'll be bringing forward is just a concept based on our conversation with them. You know, if the city commission decides to move forward with that, we would have to amend the city's code. So we would draft a work with the legal team to draft an ordinance, take it to the planning and zoning board, and then bring it back to commission for final consideration.
Commissioner Conos, what else would you like to see our staff bring
Well,
forward?
and I'm glad you mentioned the north end of the town, and again, part of what we had been talking about beautifying the north end of town is actually getting folks in these buildings so they can actually do something. So what I'd like to see is, and Commissioner Lindauer mentioned it, if there's any way you can come up with any computer-generated drawing, or, you know, just physical drawings, with, even with some planned landscaping, what you'd like to do, you know, if there's any, you know, trees, shrubs, whatever, I think that would be helpful too.
We can definitely coordinate that with
Okay,
that.
great. Vice Mayor?
I'm very familiar with this property because I went on a tour when Attorney Rob Merrill was representing my friend Miro and another group of people, the owner of the Orman Brewery.
Right,
We're
the
gonna build a
brewery, yeah.
brewery there.
An outside
With
picnic.
nice sandwiches, and they were gonna have an outside patio. So if this particular couple has that same concept, it should work, because in the front you'll have an eatery, maybe, you know, beer and wine and ice cream or what have you. And in the back, you park the vehicles, but there is parking in that lot. It's tight, but there's enough parking unless they can get involved with Dollar General and get like an easement or some kind of lease agreement. But I love the concept of giving people something else to do while you're in Daytona, other than play miniature golf and take a tour of the Speedway. So again, it's another entertainment option for, especially for families. So I hope that we can help them, and I hope that they can make it work.
Great, great. Okay, so then if they want to do a presentation at the next meeting, we'd love to see that, Stuart.
Stuart, is the idea to tear everything down and start up?
No, just gut it and run
No,
it.
they would basically retrofit it to the use.
Okay.
Well, great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right. All right, anyone else, any audience comments? That's the only one that I had right here, but if anyone else has anything they'd like to talk about. Sandy, are you coming up or picking something up? Okay. All right, so that was one of the agenda items we'd like to see next month. Anything else? Anyone has anything else to add for the agenda?
No?
Okay, if not, the meeting